Roll Tide, everyone, and welcome to TideTV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kira Goldstein. And Kira, good to see you in 2021.
Yes, and our football team is undefeated this year. Just one more to go.
One more to go. Already picked up a great win on January 1st, 2021, as number 1 Alabama jumped out to an early 14-0 lead over 4th-ranked Notre Dame, as the Tide would cruise to a 31-14 win over the Fighting Irish to advance to the College Football Playoff National Championship game. After Devontae Smith 26-yard touchdown, Najee Harris made everyone's jaw drop with this incredible leap over the Notre Dame defender as he pushed him to the ground. That was Najee's longest run of his career, a 53-yard run that set up a 12-yard touchdown to Julian Billingsly. The Fighting Irish cut it to a 7-point lead in the second quarter, but Devonte Smith's second touchdown extended the Tide's lead back out to 14 at 21-7.
In the third quarter, on a perfect throw from Mack Jones in the front corner of the end zone, Devontae Smith hauled in the duo's third touchdown of the game. And Will Reichard also added his 13th field goal of this season in the fourth quarter to make it 31-7. Reichard remained perfect on field goals and point-afters on the season with that kick. The Fighting Irish added a late touchdown with just 50 seconds remaining, but it wouldn't really matter as the Tide rolls to their 8th national championship game in 12 years with the 31-14 win over Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl.
Devontae Smith was named the Offensive Player of the Game. Smith caught 7 passes for 130 yards, tying the Rose Bowl record and setting the Alabama Bowl record with 3 receiving touchdowns. Najee Harris ran for 125 yards in just 15 attempts while adding 30 receiving yards on 4 catches. And Mack Jones had another big game as he completed 25 of 30 passes for 297 yards with 4 touchdowns.
Patrick Surtain was named the Defensive Player of the Game as he recorded 5 tackles, including a tackle for a loss and a pass breakup. DeMarc Helms had a game-high 12 tackles, including 6 solo tackles and a sack. Christian Harris had the game's only interception, while Christian Barmore had a big sack for a 14-yard loss in the third quarter to go with 5 tackles.
An impressive performance by the Tide in the College Football Playoff semifinals is just a continuation of what they've been able to do all season.
And with all those impressive performances all season, the Crimson Tide are now being recognized for their accomplishments with a lot of awards, and the biggest of them all in college football was handed out on Tuesday evening.
And now, without further ado, the 2020 winner of the Heisman Trophy is Devontae Smith of the University of Alabama.
For the first time in 30 years, a wide receiver was awarded the Heisman Trophy as Devontae Smith captured 447 first-place votes, more than double the second-place finisher, Clemson's Trevor Lawrence. Mack Jones finished 3rd. Kyle Trask of Florida was 4th, with the Tide's Najee Harris finishing 5th. Alabama is the first school to have 3 of the top 5 players in the Heisman Trophy voting since 1946.
Along with the Heisman Trophy, Devontae was named the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, the Sporting News Player of the Year, and the Associated Press College Football Player of the Year. Devontae is the first wide receiver to ever win the AP Player of the Year honors. Devontae also became the first Alabama player to ever win the Paul Hornung Award that is given to the most versatile player in college football.
Along with being a Heisman finalist, Mack Jones was named the top quarterback in college football as he received the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award on Monday. Jones becomes the 3rd Crimson Tide quarterback to win the award, along with A.J. McCarron and Jay Barker. Jones was also named the SEC Scholar Athlete of the Year.
Senior defensive back Patrick Surtain was selected as the Southeastern Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
A pair of teammates received the Jacobs Blocking Trophy, which is presented to the SEC's top offensive linemen. Landon Dickerson and Alex Leatherwood shared that honor. The duo also shared another award with the rest of the Crimson Tide offensive line, as Alabama received the Joe Moore Award. That honor is given to the nation's most outstanding offensive line.
Offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian was selected as the Broyles Award winner, given to the nation's top assistant coach. And everyone always seems to want Coach Saban's assistants for their head coach, and this year is no different. After the Rose Bowl, it was announced that Coach Sarkisian will become the new head coach at the University of Texas. Congratulations to Coach Sarkisian on becoming head coach of one of the top programs in college football.
And with the Crimson Tide at #1, undefeated and SEC champions, Coach Saban was selected as the Southeastern Conference Coach of the Year. Alabama and Notre Dame, of course, have a lot of history together. It never gets old beating the Fighting Irish. When we return, we'll give you an all-access look inside the Tide's big Rose Bowl win over the Golden Domers.
Tide TV This Week presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. It's always special when Alabama plays in the Rose Bowl, and this year was no different. In the Tide's 7th Rose Bowl appearance, Alabama improved their Rose Bowl record to 5-0 with one tie.
#1 Alabama defeated Notre Dame 31-14 to advance to the College Football National Championship. Let's take an all-access look at the Tide's win over the Fighting Irish. This all-access feature is brought to you by Legacy of Hope.
Then we finally reached this point with the 2 semifinal games coming, Des.
Excited, man. We're here, guys, and I'll tell you what, this Notre Dame versus Alabama game is one I've been looking at.
And Najee Harris might just go over the top, so it's quite a hurdle that Notre Dame faces here.
Now, Nick Saban's message to the team today, zero outside noise. We didn't come this far just to get this far.
It is the 2021 Rose Bowl game.
It's Alabama and Notre Dame.
Big time players make big time plays, big time games. Let's eat.
Big throw. Here is Devontae Smith. Goodbye. Farewell. Touchdown.
Devontae Smith, speed right there to the outside. Good block for Mechie, but just too much for Notre Dame. Not used to the speed.
Najee bounces off one man, hurdles a man on the right sideline.
Hurdling is Harris, and now running down the sideline. And he's chopped out of bounds deep in Irish territory.
That's just unbelievable.
I mean, and cleared him by a mile. Unbelievable.
Never seen a hurdle that high before.
Play fake by Jones. Has a man wide open. Julian Billingsly, another Bama touchdown.
Billingsley for the touchdown as Alabama goes 97 yards on the drive.
Quick strike to Devontae Smith, and he is in for a touchdown.
9 seconds remaining until halftime.
Now it's 4th down. They've got to kick it.
He's been a little shaky lately.
It's on the way. It is nowhere near good.
It might have been deflected.
Yeah, I think Will Anderson might have got a paw on it a little bit.
Book on the run, threw it, up for grabs, and it gets intercepted by Christian Harris. His first career interception for the sophomore.
Mack gets the snap, rolls right and throws. It is caught. Touchdown at the goal line by Devonte Smith.
Both feet in, only needs one. But the timing and the accuracy on the move by Mack Jones, spectacular.
His 3 touchdown catches ties the Rose Bowl record.
Down goes Book. And the first sack of the ball game. Barmore picks that one up for the Crimson Tide. And that is it. Bama defeats Notre Dame 31-14 to earn a trip to Miami and a chance to play for national championship number 18.
Can't tell you how proud I am of our players, our team, who've earned the right to get in the national championship game, and this is something you always remember, playing, participating, and winning the Rose Bowl. This is fantastic, and you guys have done a great job all year handling the disruptions and doing the things you need to do to have success. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate everything that everybody's done, all their effort, and all the things that you've done to have this kind of success and create this opportunity for yourself. Thank you.
Tide TV This Week presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. Well, Kara, We made it. We're only a couple days away from the national championship game between Alabama and Ohio State.
It has been the craziest season, but the Tide has persevered, remaining undefeated as they enter the matchup with the Ohio State Buckeyes. For a preview of this year's national championship matchup, our Christopher England joins us now. Christopher?
To preview the national championship game between Alabama and Ohio State, I'm joined by former Crimson Tide offensive lineman and current ESPN analyst Mack Jones. Hey, Barrett, how's it going?
Hey, Chris, how we doing, man? Good to be back with you.
Doing great, man. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, I'm excited. It's a good start to the year so far. There's so many things going on. Devontae got the Heisman this week, and Alabama basketball is doing great. And, of course, now we got the national championship game coming up. And talking about the national championship game, Alabama's opponent is Ohio State. You were at that Sugar Bowl between Ohio State and Clemson, that semifinal game. Not only did Ohio State upset Clemson, but they dominated the second-ranked Tigers. Were you surprised by that outcome? And to you, what was the difference in the game?
Well, first of all, I got to say I'm a big Nate Oates guy, so excited about the 3-0 start, as you mentioned.
Yes. I know you're a huge basketball fan.
That's right. My dad played basketball, so that's my growing up. That was my sport. I was very surprised, calling the game in person. I thought that there was going to be a different outcome initially, but when the game started, I quickly realized that I was wrong. And honestly, the reason that I was wrong, which I know analysts, we always like to blame somebody else, but is that I had never seen that Ohio State team before. That was a totally different Ohio State team than I saw on film when I watched film of these guys against Northwestern and some of their games earlier in the year. They really took a big step forward. And, it's not really all too surprising in hindsight when you think about it that this is a team super talented. I don't think anyone ever doubted the talent of this team. But I thought that only having 6 games coming in was a disadvantage, that they hadn't had time really to gel and find their identity as a team. But, man, they did it in real time and on the biggest stage. And Justin Fields played the best game I've ever seen him play. He's got weapons all around him. That Ohio State offensive line was so impressive. The way they dominated the line of scrimmage, ran the football so effectively, and that just opened up so much for Justin Fields down the field. And I think that offense looked as potent as any in the country. And I think we're going to get the 2 best offenses in the country here in this national championship game.
Justin Fields did have a huge game passing downfield, 385 yards, 6 touchdowns, and he also added 53 yards on the ground, but he may not be 100% for the national championship game. What should Alabama be more concerned about, that Justin Fields passing attack or that Ohio State run game with that offensive line and Trey Sermon, who has rushed for a ridiculous 538 yards over his past 2 games?
It's been ridiculous the last 2 games. The O-line's been clicking, and Trey Sermon, again, I don't know where this guy came from, obviously Oklahoma, but he just the way that he's looked the last 2 games versus earlier in the season, he's been playing with his hair on fire and playing some really good football. And this offensive line, led by All-American right guard Wyatt Davis, has been very, very impressive, opening up some huge holes. And that's really, in a lot of ways, been the foundation of this offense, because it's very, very difficult to cover these guys in the back end with Olave and Wilson when you're trying to cover man-to-man. And essentially, the way they've been running the football, you don't have a whole lot of a choice. So I do think that probably the bigger concern is stopping the run, even though Justin Fields is an enormous concern. It just feels like that's kind of what makes this offense go. When they're running the ball effectively, they're in a better rhythm, and you can say that for a lot of offenses. But I do think that will probably be the main priority, and because frankly, Alabama has a lot of guys in the secondary that are very good man coverage guys.
Well, the Buckeyes defense did give up 400 yards passing to Clemson, but they did hold Travis Etienne and the Tigers to just 44 yards on the ground and just 28 points. We see what they did to Clemson. How do you see the Ohio State defense matching up against the offense of the Crimson Tide?
I do think that they will try to take away Najee Harris, and Ohio State will have a tough time. Look, as anyone in the country will. Every team in the country has had a tough time with matching up with the playmakers of Alabama. But I do think that primarily they'll try to slow down the run game and force Alabama to throw the football.
Kickoff for the national championship game is scheduled for Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. Stay with us. We'll have more Tide TV this week coming up next.
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at our Crimson Tide and the NFL Players of the Week, brought to you by BBVA.
This past week was week 17 and the final week of the regular season for the NFL. And just like all seasons, the Crimson Tide had several standouts, including Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, he eclipsed the 2,000-yard mark this season with 250 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Tennessee Titans' 41-38 road victory over the Houston Texans. Henry's performance helped the Titans secure the AFC South title for the first time since 2008. Henry finished the season as a Triple Crown rushing winner by leading all NFL running backs with 2,027 yards, 378 attempts, and 17 rushing touchdowns. This is the second consecutive season that Henry has led the NFL in rushing. He is just the 8th running back in NFL history to rush for 2,000 yards in a single season.
And Jerry Jeudy wrapped up his rookie campaign for the Denver Broncos with 5 catches for 142 yards, including a 92-yard touchdown reception, which is the longest reception in the NFL this season.
Well, the Alabama men's basketball team had a huge week beginning last Saturday in Knoxville against the 7th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers. First half was a really back-and-forth contest. It would feature 6 ties and 6 lead changes, with the Crimson Tide holding a 2-point lead on the road in Knoxville at the half, 31-29. The Crimson Tide used a big 19-6 run over the first 5 minutes of the second half to take control of the game. Alabama led for the entire second half and by as many as 14 points. John Petty Jr. led the Crimson Tide with a game-high 17 points on 6 of 7 shooting from the floor, and also a perfect 4 of 4 from beyond the arc to go along with 6 rebounds, as he was named the SEC Co-Player of the Week. Alabama upset the 7th-ranked Volunteers on the road 71-63 for their first road win over a top 10 team since 2004.
Nate Oates' squad kept that momentum going as they took on the Florida Gators this past Tuesday in Coleman Coliseum. Florida jumped out to an early 5-0 lead, but Alabama battled back to take their first lead of the game at 12-11. With the score tied at 24, the Crimson Tide dug deep to take a 39-32 lead at the half. In the second half, Alabama took control of the game for good as they led by as many as 21 and beat the Gators 86-71.
Crimson Tide had 5 players score in double figures, led by Herbert Jones, along with Jaden Shackelford and Keon Ellis, all with 16 each. James Rojas added 15 points, while John Petty Jr. chipped in 12. The Crimson Tide claimed its 4th straight win and its 5th in its last 6 games to improve to 8-3 overall and 3-0 in conference play.
Very impressive. A great start for the Alabama men's basketball team. And the Crimson Tide women's basketball team has had a great start to their season as well. Going into Monday night's matchup with 5th-ranked South Carolina, Christy Curry's squad was a perfect 8-0.
With 3:28 to play in the first quarter and the score tied at 15 points, the Gamecocks started to pull away as they ended the first half up by 11, 37-26. Alabama cut the deficit to just 8 with 1:50 to go in the third quarter, but that would be as close as they would get, as South Carolina proved why they're one of the top teams in the country, as the Gamecocks defeat the Crimson Tide 77-60.
Jordan Lewis contributed a career-high 28 points, making this the 3rd game this season she has scored 20 or more points and the 13th time in her career. Jasmine Walker also led the team in rebounds with 8 and added 16 points herself. The Tide is now 8-1 overall and 1-1 in SEC play. Coming up next, we'll have our plays and players of the week. And Roger, what are the odds that we may see a play from Najee Harris?
I would say the odds are very good, especially that hurdle. We're probably going to see that. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our plays of the week in just 90 seconds.
Najee bounces off one man, hurdles a man on the right sideline. He'll come down the way to the 30. He's to the 25-20. He's to the 15, and he's out of bounds at the 10-yard line. Runs, looks, finds an opening, and it's intercepted by Alabama. Intercepted by Christian Harris. Rolls right and throws. It is caught. Touchdown at the goal line by Devonte Smith. Mack is fine. Devonte is fine. Everything is fine. If you love Crimson, here's the snap. Gets it. Pressure. Down. Goes. Book. And the first sack of the ball game. Barmore picks that one up for the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back. Those were our ATI Plays of the Week. Now let's take a look at our Players of the Week, brought to you by Payless Drugs.
Well, it was Devonte Smith capping a historic year. He was named Alabama's 3rd Heisman Trophy winner on Tuesday, along with several other honors. In the Rose Bowl, Devonte caught 7 passes for 130 yards with 3 receiving touchdowns, as he was named the Offensive Player of the Game.
Mack Jones was a Heisman Trophy finalist, as well as the winner of the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award against Notre Dame in the Rose Bowl. Mack completed 25 of 30 passes for 297 yards with 4 touchdowns.
And in women's basketball, Jordan Lewis set her career high twice this week. Lewis scored a then career-high 27 points in the Tide's win on the road against Missouri. Then Lewis set a new career high against 5th-ranked South Carolina with 28 points.
Those are our Payless Drugs Players of the Week. A great week for Alabama athletics.
And we hope even next week will be even better. Maybe back next week for a championship edition of Tide TV This Week.
I agree. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, everybody.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.